Right. Well, there's two things there. Let's talk about the virtual offices first, and then we'll talk about the practice practitioner issue. So the virtual offices, some of them are okay. So like if you're talking about like a Regis office, or even better, if you wasn't a Regis office, it was a different virtual office provider.
Regis is our competitor. Quit naming them, please.
Well, what's your company's name, Terry?
Business Centers, part of the Alliance Group.
Well, I'll say something for you, Terry. That would be a better
place to go than Regis.
The reason is that Regis has a big fat bullseye on them. So the idea, because they're the most prominent and the most known virtual office. So Google doesn't like virtual offices. But I don't think they'll ever take them down, because there are many legitimate businesses that just happen to operate out of a virtual office. So you can't really.
It's not only that, Darren. Those buildings, for instance, Telsec is at 1 Yonge Street, which is the Toronto Star building. So if you kind of block them, you're blocking the Toronto Star.
Yeah, so it wouldn't block the building. They wouldn't block like everyone that's in that building. What they would potentially do is identify which particular office suite numbers are a virtual office, and maybe one day they would say, well, these businesses maybe get a slightly less trust score because they're in a virtual office. That's the only way I could see Google ever using it. But there are so many legitimate businesses that just happen to operate out of a virtual office that it's not something that they can tear down. One thing that they can tear down, though, are PO boxes. So it's against the guidelines. It says it right there. You cannot use PO boxes. And in the same group of that as that are mailboxes, etc., or UPS. Like virtual boxes in those. That's not an actual physical space where you could meet with clients. And so those ones are out. Virtual offices, they may potentially lower your trust score a little bit, and there is the potential in the future for Google to take a stronger stance on them. Ideally, if you want to, if you care to rank in local, it'd be good to have a real office. So a real suite number in a real place, that's better, but right now virtual offices are working. The question is whether the writing's on the wall for them. And back to your point, Terry, Regis would probably get targeted before other smaller companies that are doing virtual offices.
Yeah, you have to distinguish also between a virtual office and office space, because you can get office space where you're not actually renting it. In other words, I have an office in that business center,
right,
but I don't go there every day.
Yeah.
I don't use it as my mailing address. I just go there for meetings.
Right.
And, when I need a room, which for a startup and a business that's really watching their overhead, they supply reception. Well, you know all the services they provide. Mm-hmm. For a legitimate business, it makes a lot of sense to be in a business center.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I think the key thing that Google would latch onto is in their guidelines it says in order to be eligible for a listing, you must, or in order to not be a service area business, you have to actually see customers at your location. Otherwise, you have to hide your address. There are tons of businesses that are home-based or virtual office-based that don't, they just don't display their address because they don't actually see customers at their office.
Well, yeah, like my company, I would never, you know what I mean? I don't bother with local because, I don't, all mine's virtual, so what do I care?
But if you think about a plumber doesn't actually have an office where their customers come to see them. They go to see all their customers. And so that plumber can either use their home address or they can use a virtual office, and that's a perfectly legitimate, office business use case. That's a very common thing. And so because of that, I really don't see the virtual offices ever really being taken down by Google. Just the fact that you're in a virtual office shouldn't be you're out of Google Local. I don't think they could ever do that because there are too many legitimate businesses that operate that way. Yeah. So all right, virtual offices, they're still great.
Okay.
The next thing.
I earned my pay this week.
You're sending that to your clients after the show.
Yes.